Hello and welcome to See People Live. This is a show where we bring experts, legends, and the absolute craziest stories and people that can actually share something with you to help you change your life on the water and maybe your life right here to Sea People users and the fans of those that are with us. We are super excited today to talk to somebody who I've not known personally, but known of for a really long time and looked up to immensely. And that is Dustin Reynolds. Hey, Dustin, how are you?
Hey, aloha, everyone.
Where are you? Where are you in? You're in a boat. That's step one, but where are you on that boat?
I'm in Costa Rica, Flamingo Marina. So it's in the Guanacaste area of Costa Rica. And I'm on an Oyster 625, a 2000.
Wow, that's a pretty fancy boat. We'll get to that in a little bit. I want to know how you got there. We want to know the whole story. We appreciate everybody that's here listening with us. And we're excited to talk to Dustin about a little bit of everything, where he's been, what got him to where he is now, and what we're doing in the future. My name is Logan. I'm one of the co-founders here of SeaPeople, and we're really excited for all these episodes. This is episode number 7. We've had a bunch of great episodes leading up to this, so if you get a chance, go back and listen to all the previous podcast episodes with us. Dustin, a lot of people listening are going to know vaguely about you, probably because it's in the title of the YouTube video and the podcast episode, if they didn't know already, or they're just familiar with your name. Take us back to 2008 and let's start your story there.
So it was October 18th of 2008. I was on my way home on a motorcycle, a Honda RC51. Great bike if anyone wants to get one. And a drunk driver came across the center lane, hit me head on in my own lane. My arm flew about 50 feet from the scene of the accident off into the lava field.
God.
And I came to on the side of the road by myself. I screamed for help a few times. There was no one there. Thankfully, my cell phone was still in my pocket. And so I called 911, told them where I was, and they came and got me, took me to the hospital.
How long do you think you were unconscious on the side of the road for?
I have no clue. I saw the vehicle swerve towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I remember is being on the side of the road. I did scream for help a few times, and I was 2 minutes into my 911 call where the person would get locked up. And so I don't think I was there for very long.
You were in Hawaii. What were you? Are you from Hawaii? What were you doing in Hawaii at the time?
I owned a carpet cleaning business and a commercial fishing boat. So I did have a little bit of experience at sea at that time. And yeah, I worked part-time as a bartender as well and was actually doing pretty well. I was trying to make my way so I could retire at 35 was my goal.
Yeah, nice.
30 at the time. And
Cool.
unfortunately, it's quite expensive to get hit by a drunk driver. HMSA Blue Cross sued me for $500,000. And so after the accident, it led me to about 4 years of just trying to deal with all the financial aspects of it. I did an offer and compromise with the IRS. I did a bankruptcy to take care of the medical need, the Blue Cross thing. And at the end of
So
those 4 years.
it's kind of like to add insult to injury, obviously, no pun intended, because there's no pun there. We could probably talk for hours about insurance and the way that works. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're in Hawaii, living your dream, trying to live your dream, and an accident pretty much derails all of that.
Yeah, I went from being very financially comfortable to bankrupt. And I did a 4-year offer and compromise with the IRS because I didn't pay my taxes that year. They used my tax money to pay for living expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got stuck with a huge medical lien from Blue Cross. And so it was 4 years of just really struggling to go through the day to day, trying to get food and pay rent. My income went from over 10,000 a month to under 1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And none of my bills went down. All the bills stayed the same, and
Yeah.
all the medical bills skyrocketed.
How common do you think that is for people that have those kinds of injuries?
So anybody who is in a no-fault state, who doesn't have a high limit of underinsured, uninsured motorist coverage, risks something like this. So the problem was with my health insurance is because the accident wasn't my fault that they didn't pay. And then the insurance on my motorcycle, I had a $500,000 coverage on my motorcycle. That didn't pay. The only part that paid was coverage. And so the way they itemize it, like the only way I would have been able to avoid it by having insurance.
Gotcha. Were you wearing a helmet? That's what my mom would ask.
Yes, I was wearing a helmet. I had a leather jacket on.
Yeah.
It was one of the few times I didn't have flip-flops on when I was riding the bike, but thankfully for that, I wasn't, other than the arm and missing and the foot being badly damaged, I wasn't actually scraped up too much. And I didn't have any head or neck injuries, which is incredible because it was probably 100-mile-an-hour collision. Speed like 50 miles an hour. So we're both probably doing 50 head on.
I got to ask, what happened to the driver?
So the driver ended up doing 5 years in jail. So he got sentenced to felony negligent injury and did 5 years. And I actually met him not too long ago, filming a documentary about my story. And I had a 2-hour sit-down interview.
Oh, wow. How did that go? Was that something you were dreading, looking forward to? Is it something that provided closure? How do you go into something like that? And how do you come out of a meeting like that?
I hope it was beneficial to him, honestly, because at the time of the accident, the district attorney reached out to him. And because he was a police officer's son, they didn't want to give him too low of a sentence and have me go to the media about it. And so the district attorney reached out and basically asked me like what I would be satisfied like for sentencing for. And I told the district attorney, I was like, just do your job. It's like, I don't want any part of this. I don't want to start being vengeful, or I just don't want my brain to go in that direction.
Yeah.
But I did tell him, it's like, I didn't actually want him. Most people who drink have drank. And I don't think prison helps somebody like that. And I was specific about that. I was like, hey, she should probably do community service, lose his license. And part of his sentencing, like after he was sentenced, they sent me like a printout, everything that they sent him. And in that printout was for him to apologize to.
Oh, wow.
And so after reading that, I prepared myself I was like, I'm going to have this interaction with this person. And, I thought about it quite a bit. And honestly, I've drank and drove before. Most people I know have. And I was like, I was prepared to forgive him. And the apology never came. And so at least I went through that whole mindset of like letting it go and just moving on. And I didn't even know until recently, until I had this 2-hour sit down with him. His attorney, because even to get out of prison, he had to provide that apology. And so he wrote a letter and gave it to his attorney, and I never got it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I hope it like provided, peace for him, because he's holding on to a lot of guilt for a lot of years. It was tragic what happened, but it was an accident.
Well, that kind of sets the stage, I think, for what the purpose of this webinar and purpose of this podcast is, for me at least, and I hope for everyone else, which is there's a lot of excuses not to go sailing. A lot. Like everybody has them. We all have our own self-doubts, even with a perfectly well-built boat and, a lot of experience in the past. You can come up with a reason why you can't go, because you've got the cat, or because your kids are not out of school yet, or your wife gets seasick, or you get seasick, or anything like that. And I think when you hear even just that couple minutes of your backstory, and that you have since broken records, it's pretty much, I think, the instant inspiration for anybody to take a quick second and go, hold on a second. Let me look at this and go, well, do I have an excuse? And as football coachy as that might sound, right? Like, no excuses. It's so real. So you're sitting right now on a beautiful boat. Let's go from bankruptcy, which is about probably the lowest point for a lot of people. I'm sure the amount of lost nights of sleep and the stress that brought into your life are unimaginable, with that kind of unpaid bills and companies as large as Blue Cross Blue Shield sending you letters from lawyers and other things. Where do you start thinking about, I want to go sailing?
It was maybe about 3 years after the accident that it first kind of entered my head. I was getting close to finishing up with the bankruptcy and finishing up with my offer in compromise with the IRS. And I was looking for something to do. I was starting to get stronger. I did a reconstructive surgery on my leg called a girdle procedure. And I went from, I'd go for a walk or a hike and I'd be strong for one day. But if I went for a long walk, I would be crippled for 2 or 3 days after. It's like I'd barely
Wow.
leave the house. And the two bones, so when they chopped off the foot, the two bones, the tibia and fibula, were loose and inside my leg, and they would grind together as I was walking. And they call it chopsticking. And it was
Okay.
extremely painful. And then also they would sometimes poke through the skin.
Oh my
'Cause they were
God.
sharp. And, from them rubbing together, there was a calcification that would grow from it, a bone spur.
Mhm.
And the calcification was rough and it would wear through your skin if you were walking on it too much. And so up until getting this girdle procedure, like I was tough to just get around. And after the surgery, they fused the two bones together, wrapped the muscle tissue around the whole thing, and made it so I was strong on prosthetics. Like even within the first month of being able to walk on prosthetic again, I was already 10 times stronger than I ever was the previous 3 years. And so my mindset was starting to change from just surviving, getting the day to day and recovery to what's next. And
Yeah.
I had 2 businesses. I still had my carpet cleaning business and my commercial fishing, and they were corporations. So I was able to exclude them from the bankruptcy, but they were 3 years out of maintenance. So I needed money to put into them, and I was going bankrupt. So I had no cash or credit. And so I had no way to really reinvest in the company, fix up the boat. I needed a new carpet cleaning van. My van was due to be replaced at the time of the accident. And at this point, it was pretty much derelict. And so I just didn't have a way to go back to what I was doing financially. And so I was just looking for something else to do. And I ran into this website called theslocumsociety.com. And it was a list of people who had set records sailing around the world alone. And I was like, well, there's no Double-Amputee on that list. Let's go do that.
Nice. Yeah.
And I started just going on Craigslist looking for boats. And I found a Allberg 35 in 1969, Allberg 35. I bought it for $12,000. And the previous owner had sailed around the world alone on it. His name's Jonas. And Jonas told me that, if I buy the boat from him, he'll give me advice on sailing. And I had never sailed before. I didn't even know anyone that sailed. So I knew nothing about the community. I knew nothing about sailing. And so Jonas was just kind of someone that gave me at least a little bit of inspiration that it could be done. And then also gave me a ton of really useful advice, like using Noonsight. Back then, I used passageweather.com.
Yeah.
Taught me how to use
Great.
the SSB radio, taught me how to use pilot charts,
Mhm.
gave me all the sea maps for the Open CPN, because I didn't even have a chart plotter on my phone. So I downloaded the sea maps on the computer, printed them out, and then I plotted the course into the GPS.
Nice.
All things that I don't know if I would have been as confident to get going for Jonas helping me out with all that stuff.
That's an awesome shout out. I think we all have that mentor that helped us get over the edge, right? Whether it was the guy on the dock next to us or somebody that you knew that your parents knew, or a broker that's super helpful. So it sounds like Jonas was instrumental.
He was great. It's funny too, because years later, I was in Bali. So I'd already sailed from Hawaii to Bali by myself. And somebody came up to the boat and recognized it because they knew Jonas. And they're like, oh, you got this from Jonas? I was like, yeah. And they shared with me this email. After Jonas had sold me the boat, he's like, man, this amputee bought the boat. He thinks he's going to sail around the world alone. He totally gave me zero chance in hell of actually making it. So, like, he talked a whole bunch of trash on me. And so I was like, well, it's like I made it.
He did all that though in such good faith, like even though like maybe that's like the subconscious motivation that you needed, even not knowing that. It's like, there had to have been doubters.
Yeah.
Talk to me
sure.
about that. Actually, we've talked to Lauren Landers and Veronica Scoteness and female sailors that have talked about the doubt that people shed on them for being solo female sailors. What is it like for you going through that process? And even today, I mean, to show up to take gigs, is there the doubt still there for people?
Oh, for sure. It's probably similar. I actually made a joke about this that, people mansplain now. Even though I've been doing this now for over 10 years and quite a few miles under my belt, people still try to explain to me how to sail the boat or where to go, whatever they talk down to me sometimes. People who know who I am don't. But if they just see me,
Yeah.
they just assume that for some
You need
reason I
help.
don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what that happened. And I remember when I first started my crowdfunding, this lady chimed in saying, "Oh, this is the reason why the Coast Guard is overworked because of idiots like him going
Holy
out to sea,
crap.
not knowing what he's
Oh,
doing."
no.
And I'd already sailed from Hawaii to Thailand when I started my crowdfunding. So I already covered quite a few miles. And
I don't even know how
it
you
was a,
respond to something like that. Do you respond with, I'm sorry, can you tell me how many miles you've done?
yeah, I didn't respond, but
Yeah. Gosh.
it was pretty funny. But there's definitely a few of those out there. And I think sometimes people, it's something they're scared of. They try to put those fears on.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't have anything to do with, not something to take personally. But
Yeah. 100%.
I'm sure Lauren gets this a lot too, where people are talking down to her, but that's because she's doing something that they're not going
Right.
to. So
Yeah.
it's their own weakness. Because I've met Lauren and she's amazing, and I have zero doubts in her.
Yeah. It's like, it could translate to anything. Our kids ride bikes really fast down the sidewalk and people freak out, you know what I mean? That they're going too fast. It's like, well, just because you don't go that fast, you know? And it all translate across the board. But it's like it gets exasperated in the sailing world because for some reason it's a community that is beautiful and vibrant, also leans towards some know-it-allness, right? It's like some desire sometimes to share what you know, even when it hasn't been asked.
Yeah.
So what about in foreign countries? Foreign countries are lack a little bit of tact. And do you find when you get to small islands that maybe aren't exposed to double amputees or amputees as much, it's more like that, or it's actually like more welcoming? Is it a huge icebreaker, or people? How does it go in places like that?
It's definitely an icebreaker, especially there's a few islands I went to that don't have any internet or satellite connection or electricity. And,
Yeah,
and the kids are just hanging on me, staring at the prosthetic and whatnot.
yeah,
And also for them, they've never seen someone survive an injury like that. They don't have a hospital or
true.
antibiotics. Like even a bad cut, it could be potentially fatal. And so
Right.
not only seeing somebody with a prosthetic leg, but somebody with these types of injuries still being alive, like something they didn't even realize was possible.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. That is really, that essentially just is exactly what all the unknowns are for like that kind of remote travel, right? You know, whether you're the kind of the first people that look like you look when you get somewhere hundreds of years ago, or you're like you and you're showing up and you now look like somebody they've never seen just because of the lack of an arm and the prosthetic. That's like you're opening eyes to something they've never seen before.
No, exactly. Yeah, but in the most case, like I think too, I'm thankful I did this by myself in this way too, because most of the time the sailors and cruisers show up, especially if they're couples, go to the island, take photos and hang out with the locals a little bit, but then they go back to the boat and have cocktails, hang out with the other yachties. And for me, I just hung out with the locals. And so I'd usually have dinner. I'd go out spearfishing with them. And for the week or two I'd be there, I'd be part of it.
Yeah.
And everyone was incredibly welcome.
So let's talk a little bit about how you adapt a boat to being saleable. Did you have to adapt it? Do you take that 35 and just kind of take it for what it is? Or did you have to start crafting things and customizing things to make it to where you could sail it not only by yourself, but with one arm?
The only change I made to my first boat, I put a roller furling head sail. And that was it. I really wish I would have put a self-tailing winch on the boom, because for reefing the mainsail, I tried using my toes at first.
Oh.
I took a few hard falls and then I'd use my teeth, so I put the line in my teeth and I'd grind. And, when you're reefing the main, it's because it's terrible out and the boom's jumping up and down. And so when I got to South Africa, South Africa was at my halfway point. The Royal Cape Yacht Club bought me a new self-tailing winch for the boom.
Nice.
Yeah. So I told them, they asked me if there's anything I could change on my boat. I was like, yeah, that's it.
So for anybody, a little context for any listeners that don't know what we're talking about, old school drum winches essentially were just a drum that you would wrap, and to get a little bit of friction on the line and some leverage with the winch handle. And as you crank, and they're geared as well, you get a mechanical advantage on the line. And so with an old school winch, you wrap it, you put one hand on the line and pull while the other hand cranks. That way the line doesn't override on itself or slip backwards. And then they invented self-tailing winches, which is not much more than a little tooth and some teeth at the top that grab it. But what it made you able to do was wrap the winch and then put it across the tooth and through the teeth to where when you crank it, it's pulling on itself. You don't need the use of the other hand. And it is incredibly helpful for somebody with two hands. I don't even know how you would consider reefing, especially like you said, that's typically in not ideal conditions, but even, any sort of winch work for a main halyard or your primaries for jib sheets or anything without self-tailing winches, that's absolutely, absolutely incredible.
I had self-tailing winches in the cockpit on both boats, but both boats that I sailed, there was no self-tailing winches on the mast. So,
Wow. So down below, when you're going down the companionway, across the no man's land of a salon, all that was pretty much the boat stock.
yeah, I didn't change anything as far as climbing in. The Allberg was it was a lot more narrow than the Bristol was. So my first boat, even if I went flying, at least it wasn't too far.
Yeah.
And the Bristol was a lot wider, and the companionway steps were like a ladder, as opposed to the Allberg had more stair like this. So the Allberg was a little bit.
Yeah. You say all this with such confidence and it's so matter of fact. Tell me a little bit about moving aboard and especially getting offshore for the first time. Were there moments of self-doubt? Were there moments of frustration? Were there moments where you questioned yourself, or was it just a bullish determination that no matter what, it was fine?
I put myself in a position where I didn't really have any other choice. At that time, I basically put everything I had into this boat. In Hawaii, they have strict rules on transient spots in the marina where you only get 3 months per calendar year. And so I was coming up at the very end of my 6 months because there was 2 spots I could keep it on Big Island. And if I didn't go at that time, I would have had to haul out the boat, which I didn't have to do, or try to take it somewhere else. And so, I mean, like most people who go to sea for the first time, I was in no way ready. And
Yeah.
even at this point, I'd never sailed a boat by myself. My first time ever sailing by myself was from Hawaii to Palmyra. And so my friends, we had this kind of get together on the dock as we're getting ready to leave. And we're all having a little bit of whiskey and telling story. And I'm trying not to look crazy nervous and act confident so my friends don't worry about me. And we say all kind of our teary goodbyes, and and everyone wanted to get out of there and not make the goodbyes last too long. And no one even stayed to untie the boat from the dock. So I actually had to untie it myself and push it out. And it was kind of side tied to a companionway. And as I was turning, thankfully, like I just missed a charter boat. There was maybe a foot or two of room maximum. And I almost clipped somebody on the way out. And so
That's a great start.
yeah. And so I got out maybe 5 miles. There was no wind and I'm dead tired. I've been working for like 2 days straight trying to get this boat ready to go. And I'd overstayed in the marina for the weekend. I told them I was going to leave on Friday and I left it Sunday at like 4 a.m. And, I had to or it would have been Monday at 4 a.m. Like before they get into the office at 6, I had to make sure I got out by then. And so I go out to sea and I slept for a little bit. And then I stayed close to the Big Island on the way down because, my only communication on the boat was the VHF radio and my cell phone. So as soon as I left cell phone coverage, I was by myself until Palmyra. And so I was calling friends and family and I was hugging the coast, trying to keep that tether to everybody as long as I could. And right near the southern point of Hawaii, got hit with a squall. So I had to go reef the sails. And I was talking to my girlfriend at the time. So I put the phone down, went and reefed, came back, and there was no coverage. I'm like, oh, shit, here I go. I'm all by myself now.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you struggle with any of the stresses that, or any of the fears of family and loved ones? Was that something that you ever kind of doubted, or you had to do this for you?
I don't know. Like I said, I think I never really thought of it as something I needed to do. I just put myself on this path, and then I told everyone I was going to do it. So at that point I had, like shame
Yeah.
myself into going through with it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any other options at that point that looked good. You know, I was going to be really stuck with this problem of a boat with nowhere to put it if I didn't. My family members were all against the idea, and rightfully so. I'd never sailed before. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, so my mom and my dad and my grandpa were all highly against it.
Yeah.
After a little while, they were all up.
I think it's an important thing to not move on from, because there's a lot of people that go cruising, buy boats for the first time, and nobody in their family sails. Nobody can wrap their heads around what they're doing. And once you're in it, you realize how normal it is, right? There's so many people that cross oceans. There's so many people that even just do a small trip to the Bahamas or a trip across the Atlantic. But for those back at home that don't understand it, their fear is real. And it can definitely make people question leaving. It happens all the time that people are like, oh, I don't know, the stress my parents are going to be under, or, you know, this kind of fear of the impact on others. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, we got one life to live, you know, you got to go, and they'll be okay. And then I think for me, it's always been, once you're gone, and you're gone for a week, or maybe it takes 2 weeks or a month, and people know that you're going to be okay, that's going to turn into pride, right? That's going to turn into them bragging about your trip. And so I think if people are worried about leaving, I think you just have to ask yourself, why am I going? Why do I want to go? And try not to let the fears of others, especially parents, moms, are the best, but they're also the worst about worrying about you, and try to put that behind you and just go for you. So
Even the yacht club people will be like that too. If you go to a local yacht club where you don't have a lot of offshore sailors, you know, the people that do the buoy races and stuff, and they'll tell you, oh, you need this, this, and this, you need this type of boat or whatever. Like they'll say you can't sail a Beneteau, or who knows, right? And they'll say you need blue water cruising boats. And if you did all the things they put on that list, you'd never get there.
yeah.
But these are also people who had never really done it.
Yeah. Careful who you take your advice from, right?
Yeah. Make sure they've done it before.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like from the outside looking in that the boat that you took off on to sail around the world on to start with was pretty damn simple, pretty no frills.
Thankfully for me, yeah, I had a lot to learn. And it was definitely some luck involved too, because I wouldn't take that boat to sea again. You know,
Yeah, now that you know.
Knowing what I know now, it's like there's no way I would plan a trip around the world on that boat. But
Yeah.
it taught me everything I needed to know. I learned everything about the boats, and the boats I've been on since then have gotten progressively better and more complicated, and my skill levels risen with that.
Yeah, it'd be pretty overwhelming. And maybe another key takeaway, just to break down what Dustin just said, another layer, which is the simplicity of a boat allows you to learn how to sail and sail safely, as opposed to getting offshore and starting to think about your generator or your air conditioning. And these other systems that start to come and play with bigger boats are just complicated reefing systems, complicated sail systems. Getting some basics in, even if it's offshore for the first time, even if it's as you're across the Pacific, is a pretty nice and true way to really learn what it means to be a good mariner and a safe mariner without all the distractions and noise. Do you think that just distraction and noise wise, we chatted a little bit about this in our preliminary call, but you started after your injury. What year did you actually untie the lines and take off?
So I left in June of 2014.
All right. So in 2014, we had smartphones, but we didn't have Starlink.
There was no Starlink. They didn't have Navionics on phones back then either. This is before all the user updates on Navionics. You know, those were still primarily just with the chart plot. And I didn't have charts on my plotter when I left either. So I was still using it as well.
Do you think that your connection with being offshore, do you think that time that you spent offshore, those early years, you by yourself on a boat in the ocean, do you think those can be replicated now? And how would you try to replicate that now? Or do you not want to replicate those feelings and emotions now?
I don't think I would go offshore again without, I mean, I use the Garmin inReach still quite a bit. And so my first trips up until Fiji were all without the Garmin inReach. And so I really do value that, you know, I had that time to myself. And I mean, it's like a meditative period to spend, you know, 10, 15 days at sea by yourself. You go through everything and, you know, you have recorded music still. And, you know, and this is before they would really podcast. And audiobooks, so I had a Kindle and the books on board, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I really valued that. And I now, there's Starlink on this boat. And, I was telling you earlier, I try to limit it with crew on board, when we're on passage, be like, hey, just do an hour a day, just actually
Yeah.
kind of take in this trip a bit. And it's so valuable when it comes to weather and the weather predictions too.
Yeah.
And I didn't have current predictions back then. I used pilot charts to try to guess what the currents would be. And
Yeah.
they would be somewhat reliable. But I would plan my courses and plan my chart plotter spots based on the pilot charts. And then sometimes it'd be right, sometimes it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're facing a 2-knot current against you instead of a 2-knot.
Yeah. Currents are hard.
So, yeah, especially near the equator, they change a lot. So
Yeah.
but now they're pinpoint.
Well, it's definitely something we chat about a lot, and we try to stay true to our North Star at SeaPeople, because obviously we're developing a mobile app, and it's a mobile app for boating, but staying acutely aware of what it means to unplug and making sure that everything still works if you don't have it in your hand, and that it doesn't encourage just pure doom scrolling, right? And constant connectivity, but can create a powerful tool and create a powerful piece of utility that you can start tracking. You can let loved ones at home track you live, but you don't have to be on it. You don't have to be staring at it. You can get to a harbor, see who's around you, and connect with people, but you don't have to be on it constantly to do that. You've been tracking some awesome trips on the SeaPeople. It's been really fun to see. I was actually just this morning scrolling through your interactive logbook, kind of checking out the different track lines pop up through the map as I scrolled through the trips. What is your interactions with SeaPeople been like? I mean, from the tracking standpoint or any community aspects of being on the platform?
I think it's great. I really like what you guys have done with the tracking, and I actually paid for the upgraded one.
Thank you.
I was using it enough, and then I like the paid version. You do your live update stuff. Part of it too is we caught a 200-pound tuna. I was like, well, I have to show people this.
Yeah, show them now.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy the moment. But I think sometimes that loneliness is just purely driven from not being able to share the moment with people. So hopefully like those live updates and stuff allow you to be like, no, hey, this happened. Enjoy it with me. Let's enjoy this together.
Yeah. Yeah. The Garmin InReach was really helpful for me because I went from like zero communication, zero weather update. I got hit by a storm off of American Samoa that if I just had weather updates, I would have been able. And it nearly took out the boat. Like the deck seam split. I took on a ton of water. Luckily, I was able to find where the seam had come apart. I filled it with like t-shirts and plastic bags, and slowed the leak enough to where I'd survive it was like 2.5 days of 50+ knots weather. And so the ocean just was nasty and the boat was coming apart. And so, but I easily would have been able to avoid it.
Yeah.
So having the Garmin InReach and someone watching weather helped with that, but then just texting someone here. Like today sucks, just even if it's just like 160 character message. Really.
Yeah, I did. And I hope to enjoy the fact I used InReach too. I will never claim that I didn't. It was a great tool. And I think the cool thing is we're progressing through technology and seeing Starlink being adapted, and then starting to see Starlink being adapted to direct to cell technology where you won't even need a dish soon. It'll come straight to your phone, that we can unlock the power of your full phone, right? The camera, the video, the ability to track not just a dot every 10 minutes, but dots every couple seconds, and do those live updates and chat, much less watch sports or whatever people do. I can do now, sure. Yeah. But I like to think of the InReach kind of like the 8-track or a Walkman. It was such a core piece of the evolution of technology in our industry, but happy to see it get outdated. Happy to see it go away. And maybe not there quite yet because everybody doesn't have Starlink, but you can always start tracking on the SeaPeople app, and completely lose service. It'll keep tracking in the background, turn it on when you get to service, and still have a beautiful track line. You just won't be able to make those updates. All right, enough of a SeaPeople ad there, but I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you paying for Plus. If you'd reached out, that would have been great. It would have been great to hear from you, but it's awesome to hear that you found value in the actual tool. That means a lot. You're on a very fancy yacht now. It's an Oyster 6.6, is that what you said?
625 pounds.
625. Yeah.
Oyster 625 pounds.
Some listeners may not be aware, but oysters are incredibly well-built boats, incredibly expensive boats, and they are highly respected in the industry for a lot of reasons, not just sitting at a dock and looking fancy, but they're offshore capable boats. Walk us through. You set a world record. You go offshore. You're the first double amputee to ever sail solo around the world. That takes a total of 7 years. Is that correct?
Yeah. 7.5.
Actually, before we even get into what happens after, let's just give us a brief kind of synopsis of the stops you made and the route you took on this global expedition.
So my first year was the South Pacific. I did Hawaii, Kiribati, Samoa, Tonga, Fiji. I did a delivery to New Zealand and Australia, and then got back to Fiji, did Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, Australia. I did 2.5 years in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand,
Wow.
Andaman Islands, and Sri Lanka. And then did Chagos in Madagascar, did a year in Africa, between Madagascar and Mozambique, South Africa. And then across the Atlantic, did St. Helena, Ascension, and up in the Caribbean. COVID hit, so I sailed up to the Northeast United States. COVID hit, did Rhode Island, New York, North Carolina, back down to Bahamas, and did Panama, Colombia, then Panama, then through the canal, Marquesas, and back home.
I'm so bummed that on the time that you were in the Caribbean, East Coast and Bahamas, that we didn't cross paths. That would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But what happens when you end a trip like this? You make it around the world, you get back to home in Hawaii. Were you eager to get off the boat? Did reality set in when you got there? That a lot of sailors say after big trips and big expeditions, they battle with depression. They battle with these desires to turn around and keep going. What did it feel like when you got home?
I was definitely ready to get off the boat. I was burnt out. And the last year was tough. Like COVID was tough because traveling around during COVID, it wasn't like I was around friends and family in my own, showing up in new places with heavy restriction. And the US was one of the most open places that I visited during. It was the most open place at that time. Like everywhere else, there was no bars open, restrictions on when you could be outside. And it was really tough. So I just basically spent almost a year not being able to talk to anyone in person. And so that really sucked. And getting back to Hawaii, suddenly I have all my friends and family there and everything's open. And, I was ready to just get off the boat for a bit. And right away, like after that happened, I made a decision to sell the boat to my friend Jenny, who is now sailing around the world as well. Like she's got the boat and I think she's in Raja Ampat right now with the boat. And she's trying to set a record sailing around the world alone as well.
Oh,
and
cool.
So she had another boat that she was trying to take, but then I was like, my boat would be a good boat for you. I want to try on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really ready to sell it. And I definitely wasn't ready to sell it. And so it was tough actually selling the boat because it was such a part of my identity and what I was doing. And to be boatless with like that soon after the trip was really tough.
Yeah.
But I ended up buying another boat. I bought a 44-foot Swan that needs a whole bunch of work. And so, which is why I'm working now and trying to save some money, and I'll get my new boat going eventually.
So working now is as a captain, right? The carpet thing is a thing of the past. The land life in the Hawaii is a thing of the past. You're a full-blown skipper at this point.
Yep. So I've been doing it like right afterwards. I started doing deliveries again, and I'd done them on and off throughout my sailing trip, trying to raise money for my own trip. So I was doing deliveries, and then I was hired as an engineer on this boat for a delivery. And me and the owner got along really well. There was a bunch of stuff on the boat that I was able to take care of. So he asked me at the end of it if I wanted a full-time job and go cruising. Said he wanted to do the South Pacific. And I said I want to do the North Pacific too, and he's game for that. So we're planning on doing a South Pacific lap this coming year. And then the North Pacific lap next year, do Japan and Alaska down the West Coast.
So it sounds like the owner of this boat's almost letting you co-guide the direction of the adventure.
He's great. He respects like my input on where to go and when. He just wants to go have fun and enjoy it. It's nice that he realizes that I've experienced a lot of these places. Even We just went
Yeah.
to Cocos Island, which was a place on my bucket list. I'm a diver as well. And so I've been wanting to go to Cocos Island since I knew it existed.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that, and he came out and I helped guide for two of his friends. So I was basically the dive master for everybody. And so I did like 30 dives in 6 days. Yeah, it was
Wow.
really fun. Yeah, just huge schools of hammerhead sharks, Galapagos sharks. It was so much fun.
Is this kind of the continuation of the dream? You're squirreling away the cash for fixing up your Swan 44 and then back out there?
I think so. I was talking about doing like some sort of offshore training school or like do something with the Swan to kind of generate some income, maybe take people out for their first crossing. It is always hard for people to make that first jump. And if, I think just to offer some sort of service like right now and then for someone to go out and jump on board and do a crossing. People have done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be the next step after this.
You told me that you were working on a book and there's possibly some documentary stuff coming out. So can you share anything with us? Tease us a little bit on something we might get to see sometime in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, so right now they're telling me the documentary will be out in August. And it's going to start, I think it's going to debut at like a Sydney Film Festival. And then they're planning on doing the film festival circuits for maybe a year, then probably sell the one to streaming.
Have they titled it yet? Do we know what to search for when it comes out? Or no?
Yeah, it's called Solitude. And they have an Instagram and stuff too. If you look up the Solitude Instagram.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they've got some promotional stuff out about it.
All right. So if you're listening, that is going to be, I've followed Dustin's journeys for a few years now. That is going to be awesome. So definitely go find Solitude and stay in touch with where it is and make sure you see. We've seen some unbelievable documentaries come out about people living this life and living this lifestyle. And I can only imagine, because of your background, because of the things that you've overcome here, this is going to be an incredible watch. So super excited about it.
Yeah, I think so too. The people doing the documentaries are great. They're really fun to be around. Yeah, and I like the kind of direction that they say they're going in. And it was interesting. Like I said, I had a 2-hour sit down interview. And they interviewed like people from my past.
Yeah. Well, I would have to close on some takeaways here. I think some takeaways that are important for anybody listening. I kind of want to start that though with you. I know it's hard you're a very humble person, but you are an inspiration to a lot of people. Actually, I'm just going to read a couple of these things put in the chat. Dustin, you're such an inspiration, from Chastity. Lexi says, so inspiring to see someone so accomplished and capable doing what they love despite the doubters and haters. As a new sailor and also a female, I constantly hear the doubt, but determined and strong people like you give me the confidence to keep going. That stuff's real. It's something that we all hope to have an impact in this world the way that you are, with not just one person, but multiple people. And if you can embrace that for a sec, what would you tell anybody, not somebody that's necessarily battling with an injury, but just anybody out there that wants to get going and get out there?
And just go. There's a million reasons not to do everything. You always talk yourself out of it. And if you really want to go, just do it. Jump on a boat, get on one of these crew finding apps or whatever, and just go out there and test it out first. I mean, the cruising life's definitely not for everybody. It is tough, and it could get pretty annoying having to take the dinghy to go get groceries. You walk a mile back and forth and stuff. So there's parts of the lifestyle that they don't really glamorize in a lot of the YouTube videos. But it is worth it, I think. And I mean, there's so many advantages now with the equipment and the weather and all this stuff that I believe it's a lot easier than it used to be. And yeah, and there's no reason anyone can't do it. I did it with one arm, leg, and on a shoestring budget. Like the boat I was on was $12,000. I had less than $1,000 a month to spend on stuff before the crowdfunding. Crowdfunding helped so much to keep going. Like after I was in Thailand, but I did it on virtually no budget. So a lot of the times people will think they need more and more money, but if you stick with a smaller boat, don't make it too complicated, you don't really need that much money for it.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of address the two biggest fears, which is a lack of experience and a lack of money. I mean, that's like probably the two biggest fears. The other one that people really struggle with, I think, is a lack of time and giving themselves the freedom to take the sabbatical, take a break from work, come back and finish that project later, and just find the time. What would you just say to somebody that is maybe not even listening to this because they're a sailor, but because they are facing a similar kind of injury? What do you say to people like that? I know you've spoken to people and you've spoken publicly about this kind of stuff. What is the ultimate thing to help people understand and realize a dream that's facing what seems like an impossible injury?
And I had a conversation with my dad about this right when it happened. I was in the hospital still, and he was really angry towards the person that hit. And I told him, one, I was such a maniac on the motorcycle. Like, this guy might have saved my life, because eventually I would have killed myself if I stayed on that bike. But two, it's like, I'll never know if my life is going to be better or worse after this. My life obviously changed. And had the accident not happened, I probably would have never gone sailing, because part of the difficult things of going sailing is leaving your job, leaving your finances, and taking things out of investments to put towards your sailboat. And it ends up costing a lot more. I got this level of freedom by not having. Once I sold off all my stocks and everything else and went bankrupt, it just set me in a whole nother path. And so had the accident not happened, I probably would have kept cleaning carpets and fishing and building up assets in Hawaii, potentially retiring early. But I would have never taken on this lifestyle. There's almost zero chance I would have started sailing. So yeah, when bad things happen, they don't have to necessarily be a negative change in life. It might be something negative in that moment. It might be a big struggle. My struggle was really serious. 4 solid years. I was circling the drain financially. A lot of pain, barely long. But now I'm great. I have a great lifestyle. I couldn't be happier. Yeah, everything's going well in my life. So yeah, any struggle you might have, there could be a light at the end of the tunnel that leads you somewhere better.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well said. I think there's never a reason, especially after hearing your story, knowing what you were able to accomplish, to ever take a moment of self-doubt in this world of boating. If you've got a desire to go, the first thing you said was just go. If you've got no money, the next thing you say is don't worry about it. If you've got no experience, the next thing you said was don't worry about it, right? And if you've got the burning desire to go, that's the time to go. And you don't know what life's going to bring the next day, right? And I think that's kind of, hopefully everybody listening knows that if you want to do this, if you want to go sailing, if you want to go climb the mountain, if you want to go live your dream, don't wait for the accident to make you do it, right?
Sure. It would have been easier if I came up with this decision before the accident. Told the motor,
Yeah.
I need to do this. I would have done it with a better budget. Things would have been different, but the chances are I probably wouldn't have done it had it not happened.
Yeah. Tim just chimed into the chat, and I have to read this before we finish this call because I think it shows the importance of these kinds of webinars and these kinds of connections between sea people, like not the app, but like people of the sea. Tim says, you're the second person that I've spoken with that said, just go, which is why me and my wife are starting our first trip 9 days. You have an amazing story and drive to say, I will do it. So just do it. I think Tim, the other people on this chat that have kind of chimed in, but sometimes it takes a village to raise children, but it takes a village to even tell adults to kind of to go for it and live the dream. And what you've done is, world records are incredible, showing human beings that they can do whatever they really want to do is an absolute gift and a story that'll live on forever. And through your record and through the content that you put out, through that documentary and through the book that we're going to force you to finish and publish for us. And yeah, we really appreciate you, Dustin. I really appreciate you being here today. And
Yeah, thank you guys.
There's the ultimate chance to get out and grab life by the horns. I think for anybody listening, whatever it is in your day to day, whatever it is when you turn this off and wherever you go tomorrow, to live the way Dustin has lived, and also go for your dream. You can check out all of Dustin's most recent trips once he started using the SeaPeople app by just going to Dustin's profile in the app, and you can see pictures of that fish that we talked about today and some of the other great moments from offshore. And we're excited for you to keep sharing those journeys with us, Dustin. Follow live. Whenever I get a notification that says that you started a trip, it makes me smile. I pop in and check out to where you're heading. And yeah, we're excited to see what's next. And thank you for being with us here today.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you guys. Aloha, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us here live. We appreciate you, and we will see you for the next episode. And have a great day. Take care.